Good evening, cult members, and welcome to Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
Let me get back into frame here. And welcome to our instantly after the episode reaction, discussion, review of Daredevil Born Again, Episode 3. This is the hollow...
In the hollow of his hand.
In the hollow of his hand. There you go. Which they waited to the end of the episode to say this time. I really appreciate it when they do the name of the title of the episode is in dialogue in the show. I really like it when they do that because it gives the importance of what the actual title is instead of just
yeah. I mean, at least gives you a frame of reference for why they called it that instead of some arbitrary name that you're like,
right?
What did that mean?
Right. Tuesday, it's December 6th is the day I wrote it. Couple things for those of you who are new around here for our reviews. We are only coming from it from the point of view of the show, including the Netflix series and some of the wider MCU ramifications. Now that we are officially part of the MCU and stuff like that. We know a little bit about the comics, so if there's a reference to the comics that we understood and knew, we'll bring that up, and we'll be talking full of spoilers. So that you all know what's going on. Right. So, overall, what did you think of this episode? Because it's a big departure from what we got in the first two episodes.
Right, and I was just going to say that it's definitely, slower isn't quite right, but it's not, it wasn't action-packed. It was definitely more of the courtroom drama kind of show that they had originally, I think, intended. But I mean, I know that there were things that went on. That caused them to need to have this episode happen. What was his name? Kamar De Los Reyes. Actually did pass away after filming, right? Of cancer.
Cancer, yeah.
So they did, and his character is fairly known in the comics, right?
White Tiger is an important character in the comics,
right? So I mean, they, now what do you, if they had let him go on being the White Tiger in New York City, what do you do now? I'm sure that some people are probably gonna be. I was just thinking about it. I was like, I'm not versed in what his amulet did for him.
Right.
But it does, you're like, how did the amulet not, kind of let him know that somebody was about to shoot him in the head?
Or was it even him in the suit? Because Matt did tell him once he kind of got unmasked in the courtroom by Matt that he could never go out again.
But, they did show the whole suit-up scene.
They did show the whole suit-up scene, but almost... I would be okay. I'm not going to say almost. I'm okay if that was him putting it on for the last time to give it to somebody else.
Right.
I'm passing the baton on to somebody else.
I just feel like, whoever's going to wear it, you're now going to have a huge target on your back. And I don't... you just want to scream at the TV, how does Matt not see it? Yay, he isn't going to prison or being executed or, whatever.
Right.
But now he's got the whole NYPD after him.
Or at least part of them.
Yeah.
Or at least part of them.
Yay.
Yeah. I talked about this about episode 1. About how much I loved that I hated the decision. I hated how much I loved the decision of what they did with Foggy.
Yeah.
Now, there's been some stuff that come out since then that maybe it's a misnomer about what happened because there's been some talk of some clues or whatever. But they needed to have this episode to have an actual good person trying to do actual good in New York and hold that mirror up to Matt.
Yeah.
And I think that's what this whole episode ultimately is.
Yeah, and I kept thinking, okay, two things. One, did Fisk have him killed? Or was it the cops? I think it was Fisk.
I think it's the cops because of what they showed at the end.
Well, but Fisk said to BB, that it had to be taken care of. And two, like towards the end of this episode when Matt's like standing in the empty courtroom and all that, I'm like, is he going to give up being a lawyer, especially after this happens? Because now he's going to be pissed.
Yeah, that's a really good question.
And Foggy's gone and Karen's gone, and he likes his new partner, but I wonder if this will make him. I mean, it at the very least, obviously, it's going to make him go back out and be Daredevil again because he had the horn. But I wonder if by the end of this season, if he starts to have a crisis of faith in the legal system, and that's what Karen and not dead Foggy are going to come back and get him back into it.
The zombie version of Foggy.
Whatever's going to happen with that. So
I am also going down that path of my thoughts of this idea that after Bullseye kills Foggy and Matt walks away from Daredevil, I almost called him Deadpool. Oh my god, that would have been
red suit.
It's red suit. Starts with a D. As soon as he makes that decision to walk away, we go to 1 year later, and he has made the conscious decision to trust in the system.
Yeah.
And the winning of this trial reinforces that. But if we go back to episode 2 with the face-to-face with Fisk in the diner, with if you don't get out of line, I won't get out of line, back and forth that they had, if he finds out that Fisk had something to do with this, that's going to blow open the doors to the for Daredevil to come back.
Yeah. Well, and BB might be how he finds that out, right? Because he has come right out and told her, for some reason he thinks she's on his side. That she's somebody he can tell this stuff to, and it's like, but you killed her uncle.
I don't think she knows that
she
yet.
Doesn't, yet. But she can't think that he's a good guy. I mean, her uncle was investigating him. I don't think she's that naive to think.
But I think Fisk thinks she is.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately where we're going to get to is BB's going to find something out about Fisk, or he's going to let something slip without even thinking about it because he trusts her to do whatever he thinks is the right thing.
Right.
And that's going to that information is going to go to Matt.
Yeah. Because she even said in her interview, she brought up his wife, and so she's not she's
not a pretty face. She is an actual really good investigative journalist.
She's very pretty. What are you talking about?
No. She's not just there
just
to be
a pretty face.
Yeah, she's not just a pretty face.
Yeah. And
she is her uncle's niece.
Yeah.
Is that a way of putting it?
Yeah, I think he's just, I think he underestimates a lot of people. He underestimated
Fisk,
Maya.
Yeah.
And
Karen.
And Karen.
And
So.
They even kind of addressed that in this episode with him and Vanessa talking while Heather, the psychologist, was out. Mm-hmm. And her trying to keep the business, to try to keep the peace amongst all the families after there was a hijacking and a couple of guys got killed. And she made a decision to have one of the guys pay restitution to the other.
Yeah.
And Fisk brought it up to her. And Fisk was like, don't underestimate me at all. And I think that's more of him projecting onto Vanessa a little bit about she's been running everything while he was off on his spiritual journey,
right?
And I want to get into that in a minute, but the idea that's the friction between the two of them is that he didn't come back as Kingpin, he came back as Mayor Fisk,
right?
And that the idea that she's not really ready to let go of that lifestyle. They were talking about, they even talked about over dinner, buying one of the paintings, and that would be an easy way to fence $200 million to get through the system.
Right.
So they had some...
Right. Wash that money. And he's like, no, remember, this was our thing.
This was my agreement that you said yes to in my head.
Well, that was their thing, right? But before he went away, that was art was their shared love or whatever. And so he's thinking, start this up again. And she's thinking business.
Yeah.
She's not, they're not in the same place together anymore.
And I've really appreciated when it comes with the whole Fisk and Vanessa thing that they are leaving part of the conversation out. We are not getting their full conversation. And so the fact that he came back and said, I'm running for mayor, and the next episode, or the next shot, is him announcing his candidacy, we never get her saying, okay, I'm here with you. We never get her, I have your back, I'm here with you, all that stuff.
Yeah, because I don't think that's what happened.
I don't think that's what happened. I think she didn't necessarily disagree with the idea. But if he doesn't tell Vanessa what he's doing with this big master plan.
Right.
Because everybody thinks as a fan that Kingpin is pulling something.
Yeah.
And even Matt thinks he's trying to pull something.
I think everybody does for the most part.
Right.
Right. So
well, that was the police chief last episode about calling him Kingpin.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
Yep.
And so there's this idea that if he's the only one who knows the plan and Vanessa is not in on it, she's going to feel left out, and she didn't fall in love with Wilson. She fell in love with Kingpin.
Right. Well, and that was what she said, at the end of the Netflix series was, I want to be part of this. So,
yeah.
And it's like he made her part of what he was then, and then went off, and now he's got this new thing, and she's like, still want to be part, and he's like, nope, I got my thing, I'm gonna go do my thing. And so
I want to talk about the spiritual thing because somebody brought it up last week that over this last week from the first two episodes, I'm going to do some hand flip back and flipping flappity, is the idea that Maya connecting with her ancestors, all of the protectors that came before her, and her healing the eye wound that she caused on him, and forcing him to see, to come to terms with his own past while she was, kind of coming to terms with her ancestry, was very awesomely done in the Echo series. We actually really liked the Echo series.
Yeah.
It was very well done.
Yeah.
And there was a reason Fisk was there. There was a reason that they spent that time with Fisk in that arena of that show, so he could go on the spiritual journey to kind of come to terms with who he is, how he got there. Now, I keep thinking, though, that there's something else going on. Because, again, in this episode, that part of him is still in there. Because he had bloody knuckles again. Mm. And I love the mash cut of his bloody knuckles to Matt's bloody knuckles after the fight with the two cops.
Yep.
And he even says in the little private thing between him and Vanessa before the therapy session that some chaos has to reign for things to get to a place that we need. Like he needs the chaos to implement the rule of law. That is a line that he absolutely used.
Yep.
To implement things to use what I'm thinking is going to be the courts, the legal system, the police department.
Right. He can go to the public and say, look at how terrible everything is. I'm going to fix it.
Yeah.
Feels very timely.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's been some very specific choices in this show so far in 3 episodes to shine a light, not a spotlight, maybe like a ring light, to shine a light on some of the things that have been said by the current group of people who are in charge of the company. Of the country, and
no, you can call it a company.
A company.
It's become a company.
They're running into the ground right now. They're going to short the stock, by the way. But the rule of law is one of the things that was said during the campaign. And it was very interesting that he made a point in his interview with BB of using the rule of law specifically to try to help push this this false narrative that all vigilantes are bad.
Right.
And using the example of what Hector went through with the White Tiger killing a cop, and that we're on the side of the cops.
Yep.
Except in the actual trial, they showed one of the cops with the somewhat similar to Punisher tattoo on his neck.
Right. I think that. Well, I was going to say, I think maybe they're going to use that to kind of. That's how he's going to. Because we know that Punisher's going to be in this
Frank's coming.
Season. Yeah. I was thinking maybe Fisk would use that, but he doesn't want to go against the cops. So he's going to do something, though, because that's why he wants Vanessa to step back, because all the gangs are going to start fighting each other, which is going to cause all this chaos, which is what he said, a little bit of chaos. We need chaos, little short chaos, so that so he's got to cause this so that he can go back and say, look at how terrible everything is. Well, in a roundabout way, you caused this because you pulled out. You were the finger in the dam, or your legacy, Vanessa was, because you weren't there, but your, the Kingpin dynasty or whatever was the finger in the dam, and you're pulling Vanessa away. So now look at all the chaos that it's going to cause, and then he can come in and save the day and be the White Knight.
Yeah. And if he shows up at the end of the season after putting in the vigilante, there is going to be a task force, but the vigilante law, and he shows up in the white suit, because he hasn't worn the white suit yet this season.
Right.
And so when he shows up as Kingpin, the savior of New York, in the white suit, it's going to be very interesting to see how that happens. I want to talk about the final shot. White Knight, we talked about Hector putting everything back on again, going out in the streets because he's a good person, trying to do good things. And he goes chasing after what he hears is a woman, and somebody comes up behind him and shoots him. And that person walks towards the camera and opens his jacket, and he has, again, that very similar but not quite Punisher skull on his vest.
Yep.
We, as the audience, know that's not Frank.
Right.
Now, we talked about this a little bit last week, that the writer for actual Punisher, the actual comic writer, Brian Michael Bendis. Sorry, I'll get it right. Brian Michael Bendis came out and said the police using the Punisher symbol is fundamentally wrong in the real world.
In real world,
In the real world, is fundamentally wrong to what Frank both believes in and stands for. And everybody using all these police members, all of these MAGA members, all of these Republican members using the actual Punisher symbol never really read the comic to fully understand that was going on. So we had the suspicion last week when they showed the one cop with the tattoo, and then this week we saw the cop in the audience with the tattoo, and then they showed the Frank lookalike person. That is definitely where they are going with this. Mm-hmm. Now, we suspect that that's where they were going to go because you just don't randomly throw the Punisher symbol on a cop somewhere and not have that conversation. But it's
not going to mimic what was going. I don't know that it's still going on, but in the real world. But it's gonna there's enough that if you know about the previous thing, that it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna ultimately end up being bad cops. They'll be bad cops that are in this cult.
Right.
Using the symbol as their, how they all identify each other or whatever, and then Frank's going to come out and be like, no.
Yeah. And I bring all of that up to kind of loop it back to kind of come to the conclusion. I bring that up because in the district attorney's closing arguments, he talks about how good people can have bad days and bad people can have good days.
Right.
And he uses the example of the police officers in the actual trial, watching the trial.
Except he just made Matt's argument.
Yeah, 100%.
If normal people walking down the street, good people can have a bad day, then all these good cops can also
have a bad day. This show is not pulling any punches when it comes to these deep conversations that these things have to have, and it's not they're not calling anybody out. They're not specifically calling out the NYPD or LAPD or whatever. They're not specifically. They're just putting shining a light on some people are getting into this for the wrong reasons.
Right.
And so when the district attorney gives this argument that doing good things may cause bad things, which is kind of what Hector was going through. He was trying to stand up for somebody who was getting picked on, and the guy tripped and got ran over by a train.
Right.
And now Hector has been killed, Quotey Fingers killed, until we actually know for sure. I mean, there's a body, so it's not Star Wars. But that's going to be one of those things that's going to put a spotlight on Matt again about not trusting the system.
Yeah.
And I love that this episode was all about Hector and the choice that he made to be the good person and try to help. I love all of that. But everything that Matt was talking about in the trial, he could say about himself.
Yeah.
And he never came out... He never really, acknowledged it in this episode. I'm not saying that he's not going to, maybe in the next episode when they find out what happened to Hector.
Yeah.
But, they made a point of, him and Heather having a celebration and drinking the whiskey that him and Foggy used to drink and bringing up Foggy and the system actually worked. He was overjoyed making dinner. I want to eat what a blind man is making for dinner. I want to know.
It looked good. There was some focaccia bread.
It was amazing. But although this episode is a trial, a slower episode action-wise, it was a trial. We have to have this episode for Matt to be born again as Daredevil. There's a reason they picked the name Daredevil Born Again.
Right.
And if you watch the opening credits, everything is crumbling. Every statue, every institution, everything is crumbling. And it's Matt as Daredevil who rises back up out of the ashes and is put back together.
Yep.
So we have to have this trial, have him win, have him have this happy, good moment, have Hector be killed by somebody imposing as the Punisher. Mm-hmm. The next episode is going to be Matt on the rampage, trying to figure out how to get it done. And then, oh, by the way, we've seen Frank in the trailer with the big bushy beard. So he's going to go find Frank and say, listen, they're using your name in vain.
Yeah. Yep.
You need to get your ass back to New York. Anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that was.
I think we did a pretty good job on that one. It's very much easier when there's only one episode to go through. Let us know what you thought of this episode and our discussion about it in the comments down below. Please be nice. That is a requirement around here. If you're on the Spotify side, please rate, follow, all of that kind of stuff over there. You're supposed to do. I don't understand podcasts. And on the YouTube side, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, and then on both of those, follow us on all the social media stuff: Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and I'm writing for the Geekiary. Those links are in the description down below. And until next time, cult members, good afternoon, good evening, and good night now.